I've never cared too much for sea stars. Sure, I loved SpongeBob growing up just as much as the next early 2000s kid, but I've always found the real things to be unsettling. I mean, they're basically indestructible because they can grow back any part of their body that's been destroyed. They eat stuff by ejecting one of their stomachs outside of their bodies to begin digesting it, and some of them can have up to 40 arms. It just looks creepy. Honestly, I think there might be something wrong with you if you find these things cute, and oh, wait, so that's how this wraps around to Fuko. Huh. I'm not a very good writer, am I? Welcome back to Clannad is Perfect for Me, and out of all the characters in this game's cast I could be talking about, today we're getting stuck with the runt of the litter. Not to suggest that she's a bad character, in fact I'd easily put her in my top 5, but let's just say this might be the first time in history where liking a character has its own learning curve. See, Fuko is Fuko. She was born in Tokyo Bay and grew up as a tetrapod. She's renowned in her neighborhood as being the most fair player of all. She talks about herself in the third person, and her sister's name is Isogai Taguchi. These are all bits of information we're given throughout this route, and only one of them is true. I'm like a minute into this and I've already given myself a headache. You know, I think I need to get my facts straight before we dive into this route, which works out nicely since during the beginning you're mostly hanging out with Nagisa. You have to go pretty deep into her route before pivoting into Fuko's, about halfway by my count, all because Nagisa is a very important character in Fuko's story. We'll see why soon enough. For now, I'm going to spark notes this stuff so we can get to the little starfish gremlin faster. So Nagisa wants to reform the drama club, but can't because no one will join. Tomoya helps her out because he notices that he feels happy when he's around her. Sunohara joins in and they act as temporary members in order to reform the club. But when the choir club wants the same advisor as them, Nagisa gives him up because she's too nice. And that's about where she gets introduced to Fuko. While you're going through this part of the route, it's your job to actively seek Fuko out and interact with her, learning all these little tidbits as well as setting yourself up for the greatest achievement in video game history. It's no secret that Fuko is a big fan of starfish. And another thing we learn really quick about her is that she goes into this weird state of euphoria whenever she thinks about them. Tomoya being Tomoya is not going to let these openings pass him by, and we're given a slew of pranks to pull on her whenever this happens. The best part is the circumstances of each opportunity are different every time, so the same prank can have a different outcome depending on where you are in the story. Plus, every time you do one, it levels up. To get a prank to max level, you need to do it twice, and if you get them all to max level in one playthrough, you are awarded with the Fuko Master achievement. So let's get this straight real quick, because I don't think you understand the magnitude of what I just said. There is an achievement in this video game where you are rewarded for bullying one of the main characters, and your progress in being a professional asshole is represented by skill increases as if you were playing an RPG. This is the dumbest and most wonderful thing I've ever seen in a game. Words cannot express how much I love this small addition. Speaking of things I love, Clannad's characters. A lot of them get a chance to shine in this route, and they all do a phenomenal job. Fuko's up first. Our favorite little weirdo can be found in an empty classroom scratching away at blocks of wood in order to create these little starfish sculptures. She's doing this because she wants to invite a bunch of students to her sister's wedding, and she estimates that she'll need about 700 of them. Putting 2 and 2 together, Tomoya quickly realizes that this is the entire student body. That's absurd. Beyond stupid. And Tomoya makes sure to let her know that. Even so, her commitment to this goal is so strong that it's impossible to not find it admirable. Time and time again, she brushes aside any and all distractions in order to keep her eyes on the prize. Sure, she might get her carving wood by stealing it from the art room, and sure, she might have illegally set up camp in this classroom to make starfish day in and day out, but forget about all that for a second. I said that liking this character has a bit of a learning curve, but the best gateway into being enamored by her insanity is growing a fondness for her unwavering determination. Hey Fuko, you've been at this for like 13 hours, and I'm pretty sure you aren't even going to class. Do you want to take a quick break to go eat or something?
The only thing Fuko's hungry for is victory, motherfucker.
And once you're on board the Fuko train, you'll learn real quick why she ended up gaining an in-universe fan club of devoted appreciators. Like with almost every Clannad character, it all comes back to chemistry and humor. This dastardly trio of stupidity, overconfidence, and stubbornness combines to make some of the most charming character interactions I've ever witnessed. For example, hey Fuko, try saying Tokyo Tokyo Kyokaku. Yeah, I can't say that. For example, hey Fuko, try saying this phrase 3 times fast. Yeah, sorry, but that's not going to cut it. I sentence you to the $1 million tier on my Patreon for 3 months. I don't actually have one of those, so you better get used to making alts, buddy. Thanks in advance. As always, Tomoya's observations and retorts bounce off of her perfectly, and on top of that, he's the same wonderful character we all know and love. I know it's probably dumb to applaud a story for keeping its characters consistent, it's something that's just expected, but I think you have something really special on your hands when you can throw a character the audience understands and adores into a new situation while keeping them intact. If you've seen the other videos, tell me if his actions in this route sound familiar at all. Tomoya befriends Fuko, becomes aware of a goal that she has, and gets so personally invested that he drops everything to help her. You could consider it him fulfilling his own crushed dreams of being a basketball star vicariously through her. He changes from an apathetic bystander to a devoted advocate, and while he's doing this, he questions if anything he's doing is really helping her. But after getting the full story of her circumstances, he realizes what he needs to do and goes out of his way to take action and be there for her when she needs him. If you played this route after finishing any of the others, you'll notice so many beautiful parallels. Low self-confidence, huh? Oh, that must be my boy. In all seriousness, as trivial as this seems, I absolutely adore this about the writing in Clannad. And now that we have a route or 2 under our belt, I can finally talk about it. No matter which path you take in this game, no matter how much he grows and changes, he's always himself. And as time has gone on, I've realized that this is an aspect of good writing that I really appreciate. Speaking of good writing, Mitsui here is a wonderful foil for Fuko's big dream and a grim reminder of her unusual circumstances. You might remember me saying that Fuko lives at school, which is a little odd. Well, apparently she got into a car accident on her first day as a freshman and now she's a senior. It's unknown how much time she spent away from school, but Mitsui here tells us indirectly just how isolated she is now. She's introduced as Fuko's only friend, and when she interacts with her, it seems like they're little more than acquaintances who have only seen each other once or twice. This nails home the fact that she was unable to make a single friend when she started high school, and this loneliness really spoke to Nagisa, who's going through something similar after repeating her senior year. Nagisa is absolutely wonderful in this route. She has so much personal stake in Fuko's story, and it was effortlessly implemented without a single element feeling forced. There's the connection she made with her own circumstances to Fuko's. There's the fact that Fuko's sister Kouko was an art teacher during her first senior year who gave her courage, much like Tomoya did at the start of this year. And finally, her caring personality ensured that she would never be able to leave Fuko alone. In fact, she's the one who initially convinces Tomoya to help Fuko out. She tells him it'll be exciting, which is a callback to the excuse Tomoya gave her when he was trying to explain why he wants to spend time with her. She's such a sweetheart that she internalized this throwaway excuse and then brought it up again when she saw an opportunity to use it to make both him and Fuko happy. Like, just turn the video off, we're doing Nagisa's route now. Oh, looks like the police are back. Alright, I am now obligated under the law to continue talking about Fuko's route. I guess I can meet them in the middle and talk about how great Nagisa's parents are in this story. I've mentioned it several times before, but for reasons that we'll get into soon, Fuko is kind of homeless now. Nagisa decides that she should stay at her place, and Tomoya is hesitant because he doubts her parents will accept a complete stranger into their home. His fatal mistake was underestimating the warm and inviting nature of these two. They take her in and instantly treat her like family, a running theme we'll be seeing a couple more times in the future. It's almost aggressive how quick they are to accept and love new people.
Welcome to the family, son.
Hey, you.
finally awake.
Is something Kouko wishes she'll be able to say to her sister sometime soon. To explain, after that accident her freshman year, Fuko was sent into a coma that she has yet to wake up from. This means that the Fuko we see is some kind of ghost. And if you weren't aware that Clannad has supernatural elements in it, here you are. It's actually foreshadowed in a pretty clever way. If you're in your classroom on the 23rd, you'll hear two guys gossiping about a ghost girl who was in a traffic accident. I believe you can experience this in multiple routes, so it can serve as a nice little teaser as well as some slight misdirection. Tomoya does this himself in the anime when he wonders if Kotomi was the ghost girl they were talking about. Anyways, Kouko. She's Yusuke Yoshino's fiance, who you'll remember as that electrician guy who used to be a singer. She's quite similar to Sanai in terms of temperament and personality, so the two of them get along well, and you can tell just how much she cares about her sister from the way she acts. For example, she always buys extra bread from the bakery whenever she visits, on the off chance that Fuko wakes up today. Some of this kindness is driven by guilt, however, as before Fuko got into the accident, she was ignored by Kouko for some time. She thought it would be a good way to force her to make friends, but obviously that didn't happen. This contributes heavily to Fuko's loneliness and longing for familial love, something that Akio, Sanai, Nagisa, and Tomoya give to her without Kouko's knowledge. That's cool in its own right, but this guilt is the cause of something much more important for this story. As she explains, Kouko is holding off on having her wedding until Fuko wakes up, and now you see the problem. While Fuko's ghost works tirelessly to invite people to her sister's wedding, Kouko is passively waiting around for Fuko to wake up in order to have said wedding. And on top of that, Fuko can't meet with Kouko to explain the situation for reasons we don't understand yet.
The person behind it all can't find out. It's a catch-22. And none of that was fun.
No, that sounds horrifying. Why would you even ask that? Anyways, two quick things before we find out why these two can't meet. First, take note of the fact that Kouko wishes a hospital would be built in this town. I'm gonna blow your mind in like 10 years with this when I finally get to After Story. Second, Sunohara does a great job inserting himself into the plot of this route. As we'll soon see, he plays a pretty big role and shows up quite often, which is a great change of pace from Kotomi's story. I barely talked about him during the last video because once Tomoya finds a girl to hang out with, he just tosses Sunohara to the side.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Props to the writers for constantly finding natural ways to reintegrate him into the story. Alright, now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for. The first hour or two of every Clannad route is full of lighthearted build-up with tons of funny moments. And then the game takes a septic tank and pushes it through a fan. Pfft, this guy doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. This Clannad ain't shit. Things start to go wrong right before the Founders Festival. For the last few days, Fuko has been handing out her starfish wedding invitations like always, but recently she's gone from having mixed reactions to being straight up ignored. The number of people who do this increases by the day, and Nagisa's encouragement is the only thing that keeps Tomoya and Fuko's hopes up. Tomoya thinks to himself that he has to get Kouko and Fuko to meet, that if he can get these two together, Fuko won't have to endure this any longer. He goes to Koko's house where he finds Yusuke, who's also waiting for her. This is their first time meeting in this route, and we initially see Yusuke take a standoffish attitude towards Tomoya. Once he hears why he's here though, he softens up tremendously and tells him inviting Kouko to the festival would be extremely meaningful to her, given how much she cared about her teaching job. You know, Yusuke's demeanor kind of reminds me of someone, but I'll have to hold that thought because Kouko is here now. She agrees to come. And hey, stick in the mud Mitsui here ends up accepting a starfish at the festival after Sunohara tells her to stop making excuses. We're 2 for 2 now, things are looking bright, and she can't see Fuko. Well, there's a lot of people here, so you know, maybe she's a little hard to see or something. But Nagisa shoves Fuko right in front of her to confirm that she's vanished from her view as well. On top of that, Kouko tells us that Fuko's status keeps getting worse, and she may never wake up again. Grasping at whatever hope he can salvage salvage from this news, Tomoya asks Kouko to go through with her marriage, pleading that it's what Fuko would have wanted. He thinks to himself that Fuko must have known all about the likelihood of her passing away, and seemingly out of an understanding of Tomoya and Nagisa's relationship to her sister, Kouko asks them to stay with Fuko until the end of her dream. That last word hurts the most to read, as if to say that everything we've been through so far has been little more than a fruitless fantasy. Tomoya has this great line a few days after this as more and more people forget that Fuko ever existed. The unnatural is fading away, the status quo is returning. It's a brilliant addition to the theme of change that Clannad always seems to come back to. Tomoya makes it seem like the world is fighting against positive change, that when anything good happens in this town it's considered a problem that needs to be solved, bringing us back to the unchanging and unfulfilling status quo. It's a mindset that we'll see fully explored later down the road, especially as we move towards the true ending of the game. And while whether he's right or wrong is still up in the air, what we do know is that he's not letting Fuko go without fulfilling her dream first. Tomoya asks Komura, one of his old teachers and a fantastic one at that, if Kouko can have her wedding at the school. He gets the okay and convinces Kouko to go through with it too. But don't get filled with too much hope just yet, because Nagisa comes down with a fever and has to stop coming to school, just like what happened to her the year before. This only serves to deepen the loneliness Fuko feels, as now the only people she can talk to at school are Tomoya and Sunohara. Sunohara initially seems like a crummy friend to have around, as unlike Nagisa, he just stands there in silence as Fuko gets ignored by everyone. That night at the dorms, however, he reveals to Tomoya that he was keeping tabs on the people who ignored her and went to talk to them after the fact to investigate. He was unaware of Fuko's coma before this, and decides to go visit her at the hospital to confirm the rumors. Tomoya yells at him not to do it, but he insists. The next day, he comes to school happy as can be, saying that he woke up in a different town and had no idea why he was even there. Well, that explains why Kouko, who visits Fuko every day, couldn't see her ghost. Sunohara's role in the story doesn't end here either. He has this great scene where he remembers Fuko briefly after he holds the starfish he was given. It's one of the few instances where we see that he's not as bad of a guy as we all thought.
お前もたまにはいいこと言うな。僕は本質的にはいいやつだからね。
Anyways, this leaves Tomoya as the only person who can be by Fuko's side, and I really appreciate this progression of responsibility, as we'll call it. Nagisa was the one who ultimately got Tomoya to help Fuko out, and her parents as well as Sunohara were able to pick up Tomoya's slack in the beginning. Well, you know what happened to Sunohara, and as for the Furukawas, they fell victim to a phenomena that affects even those who don't visit Fuko in the hospital. Everyone will eventually forget her, and the worst part is that feeling of missing something excruciatingly important to you lingers. We see how hard this feeling can hit when it finds its way into the two people who took this girl in and treated her like family. Akio acts relatively calm, but he can't shake the feeling that he's missing something. He then abruptly stands up and goes outside to practice some swings, as if the anger and frustration he feels has become far too much for him to bear. Sanai then comes into the room and calls out to Fuko, restoring hope to the player. But when she kneels down to hug her, she's facing the completely wrong direction. She then breaks down and says that she knows Fuko is here, but she just can't see her. She tells her that she and Akio love her and that she can stay as long as she wants. Do you guys ever have one of those moments when you're reading or watching something and you just go, God, that was so damn smart? This misdirection plays perfectly into Sanai's character. She's the type who will always put up a front if she thinks it will benefit somebody she cares about. And on top of that, it's such a powerful reveal. By far one of my favorite moments in the entire game. Anyways, Fuko and Tomoya. So far they've had this whole frenemy relationship going on. Fuko would always call him the weird person, which then escalated to the worst, and I mean, that's fair. I will admit I did shoot juice up your nose, push you into the men's bathroom, and make you give the principal a concussion, but on the other hand, you're an annoying little runt. Regardless, it's hard to deny that they enjoy spending time together. There's this nice scene where they go out into town and just have a good time. Tomoya even buys her this little party set after she gawks at it like a 6-year-old who just stumbled into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. There are so many little moments where their true feelings for each other break through the clouds of snark and stubbornness, and it all culminates into this moment here, where Fuko and Tomoya celebrate Kouko's wedding the night before in an empty classroom. It's a cathartic moment that shows off how deep their friendship has become, and, can I kiss you? What? No, hold on. This story does not need any of that. It's fine as it is. Plus, Fuko, I love you, man, but there's just something inherently revolting to me about this option. We're just going to stay like this for now, and hopefully that decision doesn't bite me in the ass later. Anyways, Tomoya wakes up and forgets all about Fuko, but the MVP Komura here reminds him when he's questioned about why there's a wedding being held here today.
その若さでもう記憶力が衰えたか。
あんたに言われるとマジへこむぞ。
I love the way these two interact with each other so much. Also, Fuko's back now. The ceremony goes off without a hitch, and we can see Kouko sporting the laziest wedding dress known to man. Thanks for fixing that, KyoAni. And as the bride and groom step outside, we see people. Dozens, no, hundreds of them all gathered to send warm regards to the happy couple. They're all students from different grades and backgrounds. But the one thing that brought them all together was a wooden carving of a starfish and a desperate plea from a determined little ghost girl. Tomoya congratulates Fuko for getting her feelings through to everyone, even if they don't remember who brought them all here. She then thanks Tomoya for sticking by her to the end, telling him that he made every day feel like a festival, referencing a dream she had a few days prior when Tomoya took her to a starfish festival, and with that, she disappears, but not before appearing in front of her sister as she walks through the school gates. She hands her a starfish carving and congratulates her on getting married before disappearing for the final time. And this song that I can't believe it's taken us 3 videos to get to begins to play. Anna, or Anna, not sure, is a very emotionally moving song. I imagine that everybody who listened to it for the first time said to themselves, that was beautiful, I need to look up the lyrics for this. And then they got a noise complaint because the sound of somebody falling onto the floor out of sheer disbelief is quite loud. Let me see how far I can get through it, and believe me when I say I'm not making any of this up. The place changes and goes, like a wind, like clouds, like the traces of the heart, no halt at the place. The place is so far away, be far apart, people's hand does not reach. So merely has the worship. The place is a lofty lord, can't meet, nobody put on. We will lose the place, so lofty which changes. Not all were desired, however, we're never sad. Still, there is the place, far away, far away. The wind blows through the place, and endless with all light, with the... what the fuck? These lyrics are wonderful. They're so good. And if you expected me to say otherwise, you probably don't know me very well. I'm the guy who, in the notes for this video, wrote call Fuko Fucko because it's funny. Of course I'm the type of person who laughs at this. No disrespect to the singer or writer either, because the words themselves match the themes of Clannad to a T, and the singing is just mesmerizing. It retains its status as a cry-on-demand song despite its off-the-wall lyrics, so in my eyes, that's a 2-for-1 deal. And speaking of tears, listen, you guys know me, I'm a bit of a crybaby. But out of the hundreds of video games I've played throughout my life, I can only think of 9 instances where they've gotten some tears out of me. The first was the ending to Metal Gear Solid 3. The second was the ending of Red Dead 2. And the other 7 were all from Clannad. Take a wild guess which song was playing during most of them. It has the miraculous ability of matching the emotions of every scene it's in and amplifying them tenfold. It really is a work of art, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you've never listened to it. Anyways, we're given one final scene before the game kicks us back to the menu. Tomoya is sitting in class with his friends as he overhears people gossiping about Fuko more. Rumor has it there's a girl who goes to this school who was hospitalized during her first day, and despite having no real attachment to her, the student body collectively holds out hope that she'll open her eyes again. Tomoya Tomoya, Nagisa, and Sunohara all remember how she loved starfish before a dream sequence shows Fuko reintroducing herself to her dear friends, bringing the route to a satisfying close while also leaving the player waiting for the day she wakes up. As for me, I have no doubts that the day will come eventually, because if Clannad is as good as I think it is, there's no way that this is the end of her story. Oh, it kicked me back to the title screen without giving me my second light orb. Alrighty then, so scratch that last thing I said because Clannad is being a dickhead right now. As it turns out, you have to pick the romance option with Fuko in order to get her light orb, even though the only thing that changes is you get a slightly different ending. It's not too bad of a punishment as it can be corrected in less than 5 minutes thanks to the fast forward button, but it just seems a little mean. I sure hope we don't see anything else like this during our playthrough, but even so, I doubt whatever they could throw at me would be enough to tarnish such a wonderful story. Only time will tell though. Special thanks to Silent Secondary and the rest of my wonderful patrons.